Okay. So you guys all, I love the phones in the air. We're gonna kick off by talking about something that all of you guys as social media mavens and magic makers in content probably struggle with, which is what is the right amount of technology, and if you are extremely motivated to build your brand, build your business, and you feel like every like and every response requires, or every outreach requires a response, you might lose the opportunity. What do we do? You've worked this out.
So first of all, I'm so excited to be here. I really believe there is such enormous power in this room.
Yes, woo! Get it up.
That if we just agree by the end of our session, we can truly shift the culture. And the culture needs shifting. Because right now, to your point, we are growing more and more addicted to our phones and social media. And the impact is getting worse and worse on mental health, on depression, on anxiety, on people feeling more and more isolated from each other. So I feel that we have an incredible opportunity, and this stage is going to be led by women, right? Okay?
Yes, yes. Yeah, men are not going to lead the chill out movement.
There are going to be men who are going to come along, and we're very grateful to them. But the truth of the matter is the way the world has been designed right now was designed by men, and it's not working.
Everyone likes that.
It's not working for women, it's not working for men, it's not working for polar bears. I realized it the hard way when I collapsed from exhaustion and burnout 10 years ago, because I had bought into the delusion that in order to succeed, you had to be always on, hustling, hustling, hustling. And I ended up hitting my head on my desk, breaking my cheekbone, and having this wake-up call that led to ultimately my leaving the Huffington Post over a year ago to launch Thrive Global in order to help people bring these small, microscopic behavioral changes in their lives that changes everything. So the reason, Samantha, I'm optimistic is because each one of us, just by virtue of being alive, has a place of wisdom, strength, and peace in us. Haven't we all felt it? Maybe we haven't felt it for a few years, let's be frank. Nobody lives there all the time, but we all have touched it. So when you are in that place, magic happens. You are trying to get from 50,000 followers to 100,000 followers. Don't try and do it by staying up all the time, by responding to everything immediately, by basically exhausting yourself and becoming like a frenetic mess. Do it by taking time to connect to that place from which magic happens.
Love it.
Because when you are in that place, it's when you have your best ideas, when you are your most imaginative, amazing self. How many of you have had your best ideas while texting? I had my best ideas in the shower, on a hike. I mean, I have friends who've had their best ideas fly fishing. Whatever it is, it's when you're actually more likely to be connected with a deeper part of yourself. So I was showing Samantha backstage the app we launched. Anybody here who is on Samsung or Android phone?
Hold it up. Hold up your Samsung.
Okay, anybody who is on Samsung or Android, it's available right now. The rest of you on iOS, iPhones have to wait for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
But on Samsung or Android, you download the Thrive app, and you then use the Thrive mode when you want to have real time, to have a meal with your friends, or your children, or your loved one, husband, wife, or to do deep work, or to meditate. And so you put your phone in Thrive mode, and when I put my phone in Thrive mode, if Samantha texts me, she'll get a text back, Arianna is in Thrive mode, and until what time? So you also begin to get the culture. Instead of FOMO about being always on, we want people to start getting FOMO. What is Arianna or Samantha doing in Thrive mode? What am I missing out on?
That's awesome.
And then we ask people to share what they did in Thrive mode. I had a meal with my children without phone.
That's great.
I meditated. I went on a walk and actually looked around. When was the last time you walked without being buried in your phone or on the phone? The first time I did that, I was with a friend near my home in Soho, and I said to my friend, this building here is amazing. When did it go up? And she said, 1930.
It's your home.
So what else we're missing? And the other thing the app does, it gives you a mirror of your social media consumption. So it will tell you how much time you've spent on every app for the day.
And how scared would you guys be if you saw how much time you spend on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat?
Yeah, whatever your addiction is. We said ours was Instagram.
Yep.
If you don't follow me on Instagram, Arianna Huff with 2 Fs. The most popular thing I do on Instagram is inspirational quotes. I can post a picture of me and Beyonce backstage and nobody cares. But if I post a great quote,
it's moving.
Like my favorite quote from Rumi, live life as though everything is rigged in your favor. No matter what happens. So the social media mirror means that, let's say, it will tell Samantha, you spend 2 hours on Instagram today. Would you like to reduce it? And if you say, yes, I'd like to spend an hour 45, we believe in micro steps, then it will give you notifications, and at an hour 45, it will cut you out.
Good.
So it's basically a way for us to have like a coach, a digital coach, to help us make these small behavioral changes that dramatically improve our lives.
And we talked a lot about behavior change and how easy, you guys have all probably had the experience of saying like, I'm going offline this weekend, I'm gonna hang out or this evening or during dinner. But you were telling me about sort of the system of actions that will create true change that might not be a pendulum that's like, now I'm offline, and then you're like, oh, I can't wait to get back online once this whole, stay offline thing is over. So how does your app help people, or how have you changed true behavior? Because I feel like we can have the best intentions, and we talked about this with regard to eating and other things earlier in the day, best intentions, but you slip back. How do you maintain? Tell us.
Here's the key. Whether it is what you eat, or exercise, or deep work, or addiction to the phone, the one foundational habit, the keystone habit that helps you with all the other habits is sleep. What can we do? It's the most disrespected part of our lives, but now science conclusively tells us that unless we have a genetic mutation, and there are 1.5% of the population, so I'm sure a few people here who don't need enough sleep, the rest of us need 7 to 9 hours.
Wow.
And when you've gotten all the sleep you need, you don't crave carbs and sugars as much. Your workouts are stronger and you're more present in your whole life, whatever you're doing. You're not as reactive to things that happen. When I'm sleep deprived, I don't actually like myself. I'm like the worst version of myself. I get reactive, I'm not as empathetic, the slightest thing upsets me. I was speaking at a Facebook conference recently, and I told the engineers there that I want you to create a button so that I can unfriend myself during those times. So you need to see what is your number. Are you a 7-hour girl, or an 8-hour girl, or a 9-hour girl, or do you have a genetic mutation? And if you're not sure, you can test yourself.
You really can find that?
Yeah.
That's something you can, what kit tells us?
In my book, in the Sleep Revolution, you'll find out how the kit and what to do, but you can also email me, ah@thriveglobal.com.
Wow, she just gave out that you got that, yeah.
And also, I'm giving you my email because I would love, guys, as I was telling Samantha backstage, whatever you write, we'd love to cross-post.
Yes.
and add distribution to it. I was telling Samantha, I believe the new rule of media is ubiquity is the new exclusivity. It's no longer about exclusivity. It's about putting it everywhere. And we have 25 million users across platform. We tweet, Instagram, Facebook content, and it's just an additional group of people who are exposed to your work. And the thing that I love, I don't care if it is your latest piece. There's great wisdom in the past. You may have written a piece that you absolutely love 3 years ago. It's still relevant. I mean, there was a great piece I read by one of the bloggers, Erin Herman, I don't know if she's here, about when she got a heart attack at an airport. It was a very powerful piece because it was written in such a matter-of-fact way. I don't even know when that happened, but
it's timeless.
It's timeless.
Something, yeah.
So we love to post timeless, great content around all these things, which are basically, how do you live your best life?
That's great. And a lot of the women here who are storytellers, I think we've been talking about both the stress to keep up with medical innovation and, that something that's correct last week isn't correct this week. But I think one of the areas that, the BlogHer community has always been really good at is the personal story. And that doesn't change. That's the thing where...
That doesn't change. And that's what we crave for more and more. And I spoke at the first BlogHer conference.
I know you did. You're in our Hall of Fame, like, big.
I love BlogHer. I feel, for me, having a
yay!
Having a platform where we can share our stories it's never been more important than now, because you change a culture through a combination of data and stories. So yes, you have to be up to date with the data. And on the Thrive Global Media platform, we have a whole team that is up on the latest science that will bring you the latest scientific findings about the connection between well-being and performance, health and productivity, etc. That's very important. But what really changes people's minds and hearts is when they read a post. Jeff Bezos wrote a post for Thrive, and the headline was, "Why my getting 8 hours of sleep is good for Amazon shareholders."
Oh, that's great.
It went crazy viral. It really affected people, because what he was saying is that he said he had analyzed his decision-making. And when he had gotten 6 hours, his decisions, he said, were 5 to 20% less good.
Wow.
And after all of us entrepreneurs are judged by the quality of our decisions. It's not by how much time we are online. But that's a big shift. And you may say, how come millions of people around the world believed something that is scientifically false? Believe that in order to be successful, they had to be always on, deprive themselves of sleep, of time with their families, etc. Cultures for centuries believed the wrong thing. I mean, look at smoking. Long after the science was in, that smoking kills people, you had doctors in the 60s advertising cigarettes.
Yeah. That's interesting. Now I'm like thinking of all the things I do, because all that the science exists, the behavior hasn't changed.
Exactly. We claim to be data-driven, but we're ignoring the data.
Right. And it's sort of, and it also probably is the hive mentality of, shame on me if I text someone at 11 p.m., they feel like they might need to respond at 11:30 p.m. So I think it's something that can perpetuate itself. But if I had the Thrive app, I would love, we were talking about how I personally, and I bet a lot of you guys, don't tend to put an out-of-office response in, because I feel like it indicates that I'm off for longer than I probably am, and then I'll drop back in, and people are like, I thought she was away, shoot. But I think if you get a message saying, I'm thriving, or I'm on Thrive, then that indicates, like Arianna said.
Because it gives you the timeline, and people know when you're going to be back on.
It's odd that doesn't already exist. Like, thank you, because that's the idea that I'm gone for this amount of time, because we've come to expect that via digital, it's almost like we're in the same house or the same room. Like, I'm just going over here for a second, and I think that if Thrive can let, I get the rampant text once in a while from from my husband saying like, why aren't you answering? And if it instead said, and if it said, because I'm thriving, darling. Very busy thriving.
And you know, you can also have a little VIP list. Let's say if your children always have to reach you, they can be on the exclusion
So they can get
list.
through.
So they can get through. And we are now working on a new feature. So if somebody on your VIP list wants to get through, the app will ask them, is this urgent? Because Samantha is in thrive mode. Because if your husband is calling you to tell you that he loves you, it can wait.
Yeah.
If he's calling you to say that one of your children needs you, it cannot wait. So these are the kind of the refinements we're going to do.
Got to prioritize.
But we would love to take questions, right?
Yes, we would. So you guys, do we have a roving mic? Any friends of mine? I can't totally see, but
And
I
if
feel
you
like
don't
there's
mind
something
telling
happening.
us your name and what you do.
And I can just find the hands, because they're coming to you, babe. I see one right here, and I see one right here. Those are the two I see. Yeah, Deb, maybe right
whatever.
there.
Let's.
Yeah. Can you stand up and tell us who you are?
Stand up? Oh, okay.
You feeling shy? Come on, dude.
Hi, Arianna. We've met before. My name is Gail Davis Carter, and we have projects at the UN. I have a question for you. When you sleep, you know, a lot of times as a business owner, okay, sometimes you don't have the time to get, you know, have the staffing you want. You're a newly started business, or you may not have the monetary resources at that moment to bring in staffing. How do you manage yourself with your sleep when things have to be done and you might have the level of clientele that is up here and you have to manage that gap between where you are, the level of clientele, but at the same time, your staffing hasn't reached that level that you can bring in more people? Can you share what we could do in those cases?
That's a very good question. And my answer is that what we do is a function of our energy, not a function of how much time we put there. Because I know for me, writing a piece, it can take 20 minutes if I'm in a flow state and it just comes out of me, or it can take 8 painful hours where I'm questioning every word and crossing and rewriting. In the same way, everything we're doing is done much more effortlessly if we're actually not running on empty. You know, when you're running on empty, everything takes longer, is more effort, is not as well done. So if we think of our day divided into chunks of energy rather than chunks of time, you see that the high quality energy, which means we've taken care of ourselves, we've slept, we've meditated, or whatever it is, not everybody meditates, but whatever it is to recharge, we've consciously breathed. That's a form of meditation. You know, just 60 seconds consciously inhaling and exhaling is a good meditation beginning. Any of these things, you will find that dealing with clients, dealing with the challenges of a growing business are much easier. Because often what's the most exhausting thing is not what we're doing, but it's what we're doing in our heads. Like, I don't know about you, but for years I have had this voice of self-judgment, self-doubt in my head that I call the obnoxious roommate living in my head. And that voice is unquestionably the most exhausting thing. Like, it can make you feel completely deflated. So that voice is much stronger when I'm tired. So that's another thing that drains us that we can deal with. The other thing is having what we call a member of your Thrive tribe. You know, meaning somebody who's in your corner. I mean, actually, the best member of my Thrive tribe is my sister, who is here now, Agapi Stassinopoulos. Would you stand?
Stand.
And she's also a writer, and she and I just talk about everything, and we hold each other accountable, and it's just a great way to have somebody that you can be completely vulnerable and share everything with. And that can also help if you're in the middle of growing a business and there are challenges, to have somebody you can talk to even if they're not in the business, that can take some of the weight off you.
Okay, thanks. I thought we had a question right here. If that's cool. Do you want to stand up and tell us your name?
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. My name is Takia Young, and you can find me online at Takia Young everywhere. And I'm an engineer by training, educator in practice, and entrepreneur at heart. And my work is around lifestyle and leadership for women in STEM, specifically in the personal development and professional development space. So I know that Thrive, as well as all the work you've done with Huffington Post, is a tech-enabled company. And my question for you is, in working with the leaders, specifically those in the technical aspect and the scientific aspect of your business, do you have any tips of how you've worked with them to make sure that they maintain themselves personally and professionally in that environment? And what do you see moving forward in terms of what would support those kind of leaders in a growing company?
Cool.
Well, that's a great question. I've had a lot of experience with that this year because I'm on the board of Uber. And when the Susan Fowler blog was written, I was the only woman on the board, so I've taken a very active role in looking at the culture and seeing how do you deal with a hyper-growth company, a company that was growing exponentially all around the world, and at the same time building a healthy culture. And I think we all learned a lot.
That was educational.
It was educational, and there were certain cultural values, believe it or not, which were being always on, and working harder, smarter, longer. But smarter and longer don't go together. So I think a lot of people in the tech world are now understanding that when they take care of their own human capital, they will be able to grow without all these unintended consequences. And people talk about how important culture is in a company. I think culture is the immune system of a company. There are always viruses around, and you're not going to fix human nature overnight. So there's always going to be unprofessional behavior, bad behavior. But if you have a healthy, strong culture, you can correct so quickly. You can identify problems. People speak out. And I have 2 millennial daughters, and my hope for their generation and the generation of many people in this room is that we speak out in real time. Instead of sitting on terrible behavior or something that has made us angry, let's express it quickly and deal with so that it doesn't actually begin to affect our lives and our consciousness.
That's great, and I think we learned a lot about that, yes. Last night we honored the Me Too women, founders, and the women who broke the Weinstein case. We had a lot of discussion of let's just get right to it, don't let it fester, whatever the thing is you need to say. Don't let the toxicity grow. I think that's amazing.
Because as someone said, resentment is the poison you drink thinking someone else is going to die.
That's good. That's good. I see hands. We're going to wrap in a second because she has to go to other important, who? Over there.
Thank you so much. Hi, Arianna. Hi, Samantha. Thank you so much. My name's Carly. I'm with Fabletics, and I manage marketing and advertising. Hi, Sean Gold knows you, I think.
Oh,
good times. Yes, he's your buddy. Anyway, so I'm here with my colleague, Dawn, who spoke on a panel earlier today. We're more in the mid-level management sort of level of our company, and listening to you speak has been so inspiring about self-care and sleeping and all of these great things. To be honest with you, a lot of our senior leaders do not embrace this in our company, and I think we're really trying to broker change for the better for people that we manage, for the company as a whole, for our culture, which is our immune system. So how would you recommend kind of us getting after it and kind of pushing our senior leaders to embrace these things that you've spoken about today?
Great. Liana, could you get me these books? I'm going to give you copies of my book to give to your boss.
That's awesome.
So Liana,
they're right there.
Here,
Dawn
you can
and Carly.
take them. Liana is an editor at Thrive, and she's going to bring you copies of Thrive and the Sleep Revolution. So give them to them, and each
Give them to your
copy,
management from Arianna.
from me, And each copy of these books has 50 pages of scientific endnotes. So tell them, we ask you to look at the science, because the science shows that you're going to be much more productive, perform much better when you actually take care of yourself, and that your employees will perform better. All the business metrics, we work with dozens of companies around the world, and we know for sure that when people actually take care of themselves, the business metrics improve. Healthcare costs, attrition, productivity. So we're not talking about something fluffy, nice to have. We are talking about something essential for the health of the business.
I think that's something we would thank all of us, Arianna, for, is turning some of these things that you know endemically are right for you, but they might sound fluffy, it might sound like it's an HR issue, but instead making it about science, about productivity, about all those things that boys can understand.
Exactly. It's not an HR issue, it's a CFO issue.
There you go. That's the one. Tweet that.
We have data that shows that if you're burnt out, you are 32% more likely to change jobs. You know, attrition is one of the most expensive things for a company. You know, if you're burnt out, you're more likely to be disengaged. You may be at work, but you may be just updating your Facebook status.
Oh, are you making us leave?
You. So we are talking about real data. A lot of the science is new, and maybe your bosses don't know it, so you should educate them.
I think that's a perfect place to, I hate to end, because I know you guys are super fans, but we have used up a lot of your time. We love you, and as an epic woman entrepreneur, I think everybody appreciates so much what you've done and that you keep doing it.
And you too, and please, please, 8h@thriveglobal.com. Send us whatever you're writing, no extra work, so we can spread it.
She said it. She said that. Okay. I'm stuck.